All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about Canadian bank stocks and which ones I think are the best. And I do have four that I think are probably the best in my opinion. I got BMO, Royal Bank, TD. I'm sure everybody knows about those, and then EQB. Now again, um, I'm going to get right into it and basically say I think that it depends what you're looking for. Are you looking for growth? Are you looking for safety? What are you looking for? Because if you're looking for long-term growth, to me, it's hands down EQB. But if you're looking for safety, it's probably TD or Royal Bank, right? Royal Bank, biggest Canadian company, that's probably the safest one. BMO, I think, is an interesting option as well. Their numbers lately have been pretty shaky, but if you look at well, I mean, if you look at their dividend, for example, their payout ratio is their dividend is comparable to Royal Bank and TD, but their payout ratio is actually like 15% lower, 20% lower. So um, if you look at just PEs, like just straight up PEs here, um, Royal Bank is the highest at 11.87, TD 11.16. And again, those are both almost exactly what their 3-year average is. If you look at BMO though, their average is 10.2, but their current P is 6.55, EQB 7.39, 7.6. And the reason I think EQB is the best long term, if we just get right into it. The simple reason being is that I don't think that the other of the other big ones, they have that much room to grow. I think they will grow, but their room to grow is limited, right? If you look at a company like EQB, again, very good earnings yield, 13.5%. Again, they only pay a 2.2% dividend. People say, well, that's not great for a bank stock, but the key is you got to look at the number one, the payout ratio is only 16%, so they got a ton of room to grow it. The compounded annual growth rate, 19% per year, right? So again, if you look at this company, again, they're growing that dividend very nicely, right? If you look at their other growth numbers here, right? Let's look at that. Um, I mean, if you look at their 5-year stock return, it's better than the S&P 500, right? 3-year, it's not as good. But again, if you look at their returns, return on equity 14%. That's solid for a bank stock. They are growing, right? That's another important thing. Their profitability very good. Financial health very good. Um, there's really nothing not to like about this company, right? Because they have a ton of room to grow, and on top of that, they're going to grow that dividend by double digit percentages per year, right? If you hold this company for 10 years, you're going to have a 5-6% yield on cost with a company that still has room to grow, right? I mean, if we look at the dividend here, and again, if you're looking at banks, dividends are very important because, especially the big ones, they don't have that much room to grow, right? Again, let's look at this: 19% compounded annual growth with a payout ratio of 16%. Let's compare them to Royal Bank here. Um, Again, Royal Bank 6.43% with a 45% payout ratio. Now, again, their yield is 3.82, so it's like 1.5% higher. Um, so yeah, I mean, they're growing it way faster, right? So it's only a matter of time until their yield is comparable to some of the bigger banks, right? I mean, if we look at TD, for example, TD's is a little bit higher. TD 4.16% yield. They're growing at 8.5% a year, 40. So their payout ratio is a little bit higher, but again, their dividend is also a little bit higher, and they are growing it a little bit faster. So again, they're literally growing their dividend twice as fast as any of the other big banks. Let's look at BMO here. right? BMO growing at 7.7. Their payout ratio is only just under 28%, though 4.14% yield. BMO is their earnings are going they're in the most trouble of these big banks. But again, I don't think they're necessarily terrible by any means. I mean, they're projected to their earnings to go down next year. But the one concern when it comes to Canadian banks is the Canadian real estate market is very frothy, and a lot of these companies, I mean, these banking stocks, they have a lot of exposure to this. So if you see a big correction in the Canadian real estate sector, that will hurt the banks, right? That will hurt the banks. But on the flip side, if you got higher rates, that's going to help out banks, right? Because they're going to be able to charge out higher rates on loans, right? Um, and on top of that, given Canadian, I mean, if you look at buying a house in Canada, um, you have to re-up every what 3 5 years. Compared to the States, it's typically quite a bit longer. The Canadian real estate market will adjust faster than the American real estate market. So if we do see a big adjustment in the Canadian real estate market, in my opinion, that would be a good time to buy these banking stocks. And again, right now, I don't even think it's necessarily that bad of a time, right? If you look at these companies, I don't think that any of them are necessarily overvalued at this point, right? I mean, if you look at analyst expectations, they all have. I mean, analysts are always bullish, to be fair, but they're all below, right? They're all below. And that's an important thing to understand, right? And again, if you're buying the big banks, you're buying them as much for the dividend as you are for any growth. But again, that's why I'm a fan of EQB. I think that they're the best bank to own, especially if your goal is long term, right? I mean, average analyst expectation again, $80 a share. It's currently at 60. So again, I think that this company is going to be very good. Again, obviously, all this is my opinion. Do your own due diligence, but I think that again, the main reason is number one, the amount of growth that they are experiencing, and number two, the fact that they're growing that dividend so fast while still having a very low payout ratio, right? In my opinion, if they can grow that dividend by 10-15% a year and continue to grow even close to where they're growing right now, I mean, they're growing, I mean, their net margin 42%. Um, if they can grow that dividend, like I say, 10-15% per year, they can grow even half as good as they are right now. That's still good. That's still going to be better than, the big banks, right? So I just really like this company, right? And again, it has pretty well everything you're looking for, in my opinion, right? They don't even have debit cards yet. I mean, I don't even know if they're in every province yet. And they are strictly an online bank. And that is the way that things are going, right? Like the old style, you got to do all your stuff in house. That is the old way of doing things. The new way is online, um, in that way, right? And on top of that, of the major banks, they have one of, if not the best, savings accounts rates, right? I mean, if you look at BMO, um, I have one with them and one with EQB. That's why I bring BMO up. BMO savings accounts is like 1, maybe 1.5%, depending on which one you have. EQB is 2.5, right? So you get a whole extra percent on that savings account. With again, there's no catch either. Like there's no catch, right? You can, and that's the old problem with savings accounts, right? But there's no catch, right? So again, just my opinion, I think that this company is going to, I think it's going to grow probably comparable to what the S&P 500 grows at over the next 10-20 years. And on top of that, you're going to get a company that's going to grow its dividend by 10-15% per year over that time, right? You buy this company today, hold it for 20 years, I think you'll have a 10% yield on cost and a company that's still growing, right? That is exactly what you want. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.